He had 10 years to change his life. 10 years of mornings, 10 years of evenings, 10 years of watching the clock move forward while he stood still. And in all that time, he did nothing. Not because he was lazy, but because he was waiting. Waiting for the right moment, waiting for the fear to disappear, waiting for someone to save him. But the moment never came. Until one ordinary day, when 10 years of waiting ended in 10 seconds of truth. This is the story of a man who discovered that change doesn't take time. Change takes a decision. Let me tell you about a man named Vikram. Vikram was 33 years old. He lived in a small apartment in a crowded city. Every morning the alarm would ring, and Vikram would lie in bed staring at the ceiling. He would think. He would think about the business he wanted to start, the one he had been planning since he was 23. 10 years of planning. He had notebooks full of ideas, pages and pages of strategies. He knew everything about the industry. He had studied, he had prepared, he had watched others succeed. And every day he told himself the same thing. Tomorrow, I will start tomorrow. But tomorrow never came. Vikram worked a job he hated, a desk job, safe, predictable. It paid the bills, but it killed something inside him. Every evening he came home exhausted, not from working hard, but from pretending he was okay. His mother would call. "Beta, what are you doing with your life?" He would smile and say, "I'm planning something big." But deep inside, Vikram knew the truth. He wasn't planning. He was hiding. The struggle inside Vikram was constant. It was loud. It was heavy. There were two voices in his head. One voice said, "You are wasting your life. Every day you wait is a day you never get back. Just start. Even if it's small, just start." And then the other voice spoke louder. "What if you fail? What if people laugh? What if you lose everything? You're not ready yet. You need more time. You need more knowledge. Wait, wait, wait." Vikram always listened to the second voice, because the second voice felt safe. The second voice felt like protection, but it was not protection. It was a prison. Years passed. His friends started businesses. Some failed, some succeeded, but they were living, they were moving, they were becoming. Vikram stayed exactly where he was. At 33, he looked in the mirror and saw a stranger, a man who had dreams in his head but no fire in his chest, a man who was still waiting to permission to live. One night, he couldn't sleep. He sat by the window watching the city lights, and a terrible thought entered his mind. He realized he was no longer afraid of failing. He was afraid of never trying. That fear, the fear of a life unlived, was worse than any failure he could imagine. The next morning was ordinary. The sun rose, the traffic roared, the world moved forward indifferent to his pain. Vikram did his usual routine. He made tea, he sat on his old wooden chair, and he opened his notebook, the same notebook he had been filling for 10 years. He stared at the first page. It was dated 10 years ago. Business Plan, Version 1. He turned the pages slowly. Version 2, Version 5, Version 12, each one more detailed than the last, each one never touched by action. His eyes landed on a small glass sitting on his table. It was a simple glass, half filled with water. He had poured it the night before and forgotten to drink it. He picked up the glass, and in that moment, something strange happened. He looked at the water, still, calm, waiting. And he thought, this glass has been sitting here for hours. It hasn't moved. It hasn't changed. It's just waiting for someone to pick it up. Then he looked at his notebook, 10 years of waiting. And he understood. The glass doesn't move by itself. The notebook doesn't write by itself. Dreams don't become real by themselves. Someone has to act. Vikram placed the glass down, His hand trembled, his heart pounded, the fear was screaming inside him. But he didn't listen. He picked up a pen, and in 10 seconds, he did what he hadn't done in 10 years. He wrote one sentence on a fresh page. "Today, I start." In that moment, Vikram felt something he had forgotten existed: clarity. The fog in his mind lifted, the weight on his chest disappeared. Not because everything was fixed, it wasn't. He still had no customers, no money saved, no guarantees. But he was no longer waiting. He stood up from that chair a different man. The old Vikram was a man who defined himself by his plans. He was a dreamer, he was a thinker, he believed his identity was in his ideas. But the new Vikram understood something deeper. Your identity is not what you plan to do. Your identity is what you actually do. He didn't wait for motivation. He didn't wait for fear to leave. He simply decided that waiting was no longer who he was. That day, he made one phone call. A small step, a tiny step, but a step. He called an old friend who had started a similar business. His voice shook, his palms were sweaty, but he spoke. "I need help. I'm starting today." The friend smiled through the phone. "Finally," he said, "I've been waiting for this call for 10 years." Vikram laughed. For the first time in years, he laughed with relief. Here is the lesson Vikram learned, and it is the same lesson that separates those who change from those who stay the same. Time does not create change. Decisions do. We believe we need more time, more preparation, more certainty. We tell ourselves that someday, when the conditions are perfect, we will finally act. But the conditions will never be perfect. Fear does not disappear with time. Fear only grows when you feed it with waiting. Vikram spent 10 years collecting information, but information without action is just entertainment for the mind. It makes you feel productive while you stay exactly where you are. The moment he stopped planning and started doing, even in the smallest way, his entire identity shifted. He was no longer a man who wanted to start. He became a man who started. And once you become that person, you never go back. Action creates clarity. Action creates confidence. Action kills fear. Waiting protects nothing. It only delays the life you were meant to live. Maybe you are like Vikram. Maybe you have been waiting, planning, preparing, telling yourself that tomorrow is the day. But look at your hands. Are they holding a glass of water that has been sitting too long? Look at your heart. Is it tired of dreaming without moving? You don't need another year. You don't need another plan. You don't need the fear to leave. You just need 10 seconds. 10 seconds of courage. 10 seconds where you choose action over waiting. 10 seconds where you decide who you truly want to be. That is all change ever takes. A moment, a choice, and then a life you never imagined. If this story touched something deep inside you, hit that like button, share it with someone who is waiting too long, and subscribe to Demotivation for more stories that remind you who you can become. The 10 seconds start now.